The mood board. Most of us understand what it looks and feels like. A selection of images displayed in a particular manner meant to illustrate or elicit a particular mood. In the context of fashion, that mood may be beauty, desire, power, clairvoyance, rebellion, or comfort. In today's video essay, I'm going to be breaking down the rise of the mood board and explaining how it has a much bigger impact on fashion as a whole than you might think. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Drew What It Do, and then for those of you who do know me, what up squad? You know how we get down, fist bump for the one time. Let's see if we can get this video to 500 likes within the first 24 hours of this upload, and comment down below your initial thoughts and your initial impressions of a mood board. The idea of using images to display or demonstrate a mood is not a new idea. From traditional art to photography, human beings have longed to display intimate parts of their emotions through visual concepts. But we live in a time within the 21st century where both technology and the internet have truly revolutionized the way we interact with these visual concepts forever. It's nearly impossible to pinpoint the exact date or the exact origin of the mood board, but in my estimation, I feel like the mood boards that we look at mostly today on the internet come from their original form, which is magazine and print. And in my opinion, some of the more recognizable mood board archetype magazines come from Japan. Magazines like Popeye, Lightning, Fudge. These publications have been around for years and years and years. And as someone who lives in the Western world who doesn't understand and speak a lot of Japanese, when you look at the imagery on these magazines, it typically turns more into a mood board kind of feeling than really understanding and digesting all of what the magazine is saying about the different pieces, items, and objects within that context of the book. Now, I use the Japanese magazines as an example because recently I've been doing more research on them and that's kind of my bias towards them. But if you have other magazines or other print advertisements or just other print pages or whatever it may be that also kind of replicate what you feel to be a mood board today, comment them down in the comment section. I would love to know what you think. Beyond just magazines, you obviously also have the different editorial, photo shoot, and lookbook aspects that fashion seems to be obsessed with season in and season out that help elicit a mood beyond just the clothing that's being created. Within fashion, the idea of using commercialized cameras to help elicit a mood beyond the clothing has been around for a while. And for a while, I mean within the last 100 years, where the commercialization of these cameras, where the use cases of these cameras have really been prominent, right? And this is kind of where I draw the line, the distinction between the origin of the mood board. I feel like it lies between this idea of print magazines who've always used heavy imagery and the idea that fashion and a lot of fashion houses and brands use editorial photography and lookbooks to create moods to elicit for their collections. That's kind of where the origin is for me. But the number one thing with these videos is the conversation. What do you think? Maybe you're a little bit older than me and understand maybe the landscape of how fashion's evolved over time with photography and we're just in a current iteration, or maybe you think I'm wrong in some way or another. Let me know down in the comment section. I'll look forward to reading it. Now that we kind of have a common ground on where I think the origin of the mood board sprouts from, let's bring it into a modern context and talk about those two things which I mentioned before, the internet and technology. So when I say mood board, most of you probably think about Pinterest or Instagram. And I feel like those are the two most strong and common use cases right now in this current iteration of the internet. The idea is a brand or an individual that kind of scours the internet to find continuous imagery to post to create or elicit a mood. That's the mood board in 2021, in my estimation, on the internet, on Instagram and on Pinterest. Basically a collection of images over and over and over again being posted. And I think the most prominent distinction about the modern mood board is kind of this synergy between mood board and brand creation, which is really fascinating. I have 6 or 7 examples that I'm going to break down into different categories of the likes, which include Hidden NY, Emilion d'Or, Jound, Sporty and Rich, Museum of Peace and Quiet, Gardens and Seeds, and Racket Club LA. Each of these brands or mood boards have brand aspects infused into the ethos and the dogma and the imagery that they use. In the first category, let's talk about Jound, Sporty and Rich, and Racket Club LA. Each of these 3 have extremely strong mood board elements, and I would even say that Jound and Sporty and Rich are probably some of the biggest, if not the 2 biggest mood board turned brands in the world. So this is the meat and potatoes of the video. I'm very excited about this. So what makes this category distinct from the next categories I'll mention is that these brands or mood boards started out by curating tons and tons and tons of imagery, right? And the images they curated help create that mood, i.e. mood board, that you see is common today. And what these brands have done, or mood boards have done, is taken their ability to curate images and transform that curation process into products, which is something that didn't happen in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s as much, in my opinion, because there wasn't the advent of social media like it is today. And they leveraged their ability to curate images. They leveraged their ability to be recognizable within the ideas and the mindsets of consumers, that they can curate beautiful images into a brand. And I think one of the most interesting parts is that the curation for someone like Justin Saunders or Emily Oberg is the fact that they curated images that they never touched, they never took. They kind of just piggybacked in a way off of someone else's creativity. You guys know I love Jound. I have literally the Jound 990 V4s right here. And I think Jound's example is a really interesting one because the metamorphosis from mood board to brand has been replicated by so many others up until this point, because the ability to create that community around images has really transformed the way we see brands today, especially online. And Emily Oberg's Sporty and Rich follows suit. The fact that she has 10,000 posts on her Instagram makes me believe that probably 80 to 90% of the images on Sporty and Rich's Instagram is probably mood board imagery, and that other 10%, which is crazy to think about, is maybe less than 10% is her actual products and the different things that the brand releases. And it's kind of shifting now, but you get the idea. It started out as a mood board and it shifted into a brand. And I think Jound and Sporty and Rich, while there might be others, are some of the kind of like founding fathers and mothers of the idea of creating a mood board and then channeling that energy from your mood board into a brand, correct? And I mentioned another kind of brand mood board called Racket Club LA with someone who I know who's a friend of mine named Sasha. And I wanted to mention this mood board and her because it's just insane, the level of curation on the Instagram feed. If you kind of scroll through, it's all color blocked, and it kind of, the hues change from one color to another. The level of detail is insane in that regard, and the ability to actually find images like this over and over and over again, and she has quite a few thousand posts as well, is really, really something to behold in the kind of social media era. I want to kind of drill this in. For category 1, the distinction between this category is that these brands, these mood boards, they started as mood boards, right? Their initial kind of purpose was curating tons and tons of images. And over time, they transitioned and leveraged their audience and leveraged their kind of ability to curate into creating brands, right? Now for the second category, I want to mention 2 brands that I feel like are on the opposite spectrum of the other 3 brands or mood boards that I mentioned. And for this category, we're going to be talking about Emilion d'Or and the Museum of Peace and Quiet, which is a really interesting brand. And I left out Hidden in Gardens and Seeds because I feel like they deserve a category of their own. You'll let me know down in the comment section when you see it. I think the difference between category 1 and category 2 with Emilion d'Or, Museum of Peace and Quiet, is their implementation of this idea of a mood board. From my estimation and understanding, it seems as though ALD and MOPQ both created brands first, right? And their initial idea of their brands was to create products that emphasize whatever ethos or design language that they wanted to create and solve whatever problems they felt like were out there in the world, right? But what transitioned them into having these mood board elements maybe is the influence of the brands from category 1, but also what they've done is they use the mood board. They use images that are outside of the photography that they take, outside of the pictures that they take, to help also illustrate that feeling, right? For example, if you look at ALD, great example, they are New York's, one of New York's brands. And so a lot of times what they'll do is they'll kind of put different images that represent their idea, their stylistic view of New York, whether it be like a image of a rapper having different basketball players in it. And the brand for contemporary adults, Museum of Peace and Quiet, will put different images that elicit that kind of calmness, that sturdiness, that groundedness, that earthy vibe, California personified essentially. And they'll implement those images into their feed and into their imagery on their website to also, once again, help amplify those products that they're creating, right? I find that distinction really interesting. Category 1, you curate images, you create brand. Category 2, you create brand, you use images to help drive the mood of the brand. Sorry, I was trying to think that through. Hopefully that distinction makes sense. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Now, that was category 2, and we talked about category 1. I think category 3 is very similar to the first category, all these categories. Hopefully you're staying with me here. It's similar to the first category, but implements a community aspect that maybe category 1 didn't initially start out with. Enter brands like Hidden NY and Gardens and Seeds. Hopefully I can explain this well. So for Hidden, obviously we know Hidden NY has been a mood board or a kind of picture curation page for a long time now, and it has images of New York, of Japan, of old streetwear, of Pharrell and Nigo, and etc., etc., etc. Gardens and Seeds, once again, California and New York. Gardens and Seeds is in California, and it more focuses on kind of that California aesthetic, different cars, beaches, beautiful architecture, things that more revolve around that California, almost like Colorado, that California lifestyle, right? Where the distinction is from category 1 and 3, which is these two brands, is the idea of also including user-generated content into their mood board to help build a community, right? So for example, I'm not sure how long Hidden has been doing this, but I know that they do it now. But I know, if you tag Hidden NY, and Mark Boutelier will will make a funny meme about it, but if you tag Hidden NY in a particular way, it also allows Hidden to post the content that you create on their mood board, so you then become a part of the mood board. Same with Gardens and Seeds. If you post and tag Gardens and Seeds in your post on Instagram, it also allows them to put your content, as long as it kind of vibes and jives with the mood board, into their mood board, and creates a community aspect of it by including the user outside of the actual content curation into the mood board. That is one of the most interesting distinctions about mood boards today, especially on Instagram. I have no idea how it works on Pinterest, but if you have an idea of how it works on Pinterest, I don't know if Pinterest is as communal as this like third category is, and even like maybe category 2. What I think that is really special about this time is all of these versions of a mood board. And community is something we all long for at a deeper level, especially within the fashion community, because a lot of times, if, for example, I'm from Colorado, and in my estimation, the largest cities in the world is where really the biggest fashion community operates. So if you live in LA, or if you live in New York or London or Paris or Tokyo or Amsterdam or whatever, you live in these large cityscapes, these modern large cityscapes, that is where you'll find a lot of people congregating within a similar interest group as you. Where now the advent of the internet and globalization and the advent of mood boards and the ability to connect with others from around the world instantaneously has allowed for a kid from Kansas, right? A kid from parts of Mexico, a kid from parts of, Guatemala or South Africa, or a kid from parts of Portugal or Sweden to connect with someone from all over the world within this community-based system. And we all understand images, right? Like, that's the really special thing about it, is that images don't require language. They just require the ability to computationally understand kind of what this image means. And so I think it's a really interesting aspect as well, is that images help bring, the old saying is an image is worth 1,000 words, right? And so images help also bring people together and elicit moods together that break that bound of language, which sometimes language can be a little bit tough for someone who lives in South Korea or someone who lives in other parts of the world where, not everyone just speaks English. Like I'm an English speaker and I'm trying to learn other languages, but like English isn't the most dominant language everywhere all the time. It's a dominant language, but it's not the most everywhere all the time, right? I also think it's insane that Hidden has over 18,000 posts, that he's been doing it for so long. Hidden, if you want to come on the podcast, I got a couple questions for you, bro. Let's make it happen. In my opinion, I think that the community aspect of a mood board is kind of the pinnacle as of right now. There could be a new pinnacle in the future, but it's the pinnacle of what I believe the mood board is meant to do. It's meant to bring people who like certain images or kind of just understand these different aspects of fashion together, or help better tell a story in fashion. That's where we are with mood boards. And now that I feel like I've broken down each category, hopefully you can kind of see that rise of the mood board, right? It's been a gradual process, but it has a strong correlation with the rise in the popularity of social media and the internet, and the transformation of how brands and individuals interact with the internet. A lot of these brands that I mentioned, and even more brands, are huge influencers on youth culture and fashion as a whole. And so I believe that more brands in the future will continue to kind of reject this corporate fashion model, which typically sees, very polished imagery with less storytelling, but it's clean, with more kind of mood image board type pictures that elicit a particular mood for that brand. Now, obviously it has to fit the brand ethos. There are some brands that will never obviously adopt a mood board type aesthetic, but at the same time, it's really interesting to see how these brands, some of them, have really influenced a lot of smaller brands coming up and a lot of the youth right now. Would it be wrong for me to think that these mood board brands, or brands that implement a mood board, are not the strongest or the most gravitating brands in the 20 teens or the 2020s? I don't know. I guess from my perspective they are, but if you have another perspective, be my friend. Comment it down in the comment section. I don't see the mood board going away anytime soon. I feel like it plays a deep subliminal role in the brands that we like and we don't like. And like I mentioned before, it seems as though youth culture is grasping more so onto the idea of mood boards than this corporate fashion. I could be wrong with that, but it all depends on, how strong marketing pushes are for different things. Altogether, what do you think? Do you think mood boards are here to stay? Do you like mood boards? Do you hate mood boards? Do you not understand mood boards? And let me know if I missed anything when it comes to this topic. I tried to give you guys a relatively broad stroke of this idea of the rise of the mood board, and hopefully I illustrated it in a decent way. I want the conversation to be pretty dynamic down in the comment section, and I probably mentioned go comment down in the comment section probably 6 times in this video already. But anyways, as always, I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity in 2021. So that means I'm spreading peace, love, and positivity to you. Wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you next time. Abianto. What's up? You made it to the post Vid Vid. If you're a 1%er who made it to the post Vid Vid, you know how we get down. Bop, bop, twice. That was probably a little quick. Maybe I'll do it slower. There's 1, there's 2. There we go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It took me a little bit of time to actually script this one out, think about it, think it through, and kind of come up with my ideas for it. I would love to hear the 1% post-vid vidders down in the comment section kind of wild out with, you know, how you made it to the post-vid vid. I'd appreciate that. The Discord is coming along, so if you have any suggestions for names, that would be great. I'm trying to make sure it's a really good Discord server. Learning the ins and outs. Honestly, I used Discord once actually, if I remember correctly, and it was like 2019, so almost 2 years ago, or I guess, yeah, 2 years ago. So I'm trying to get back into it, and hopefully we can chop it up in Discord pretty soon here, probably by the end of this month or sometime this month. So that'll be in the works. I want to ask you, does it snow where you live? Like, post vid, like, does it snow where y'all live? Because in Colorado, in the state of Colorado, in the United States, it's right by the Rocky Mountains, and it snows. And I like the snow. I don't mind it because I grew up in it. But like, some people don't like the snow. But let me know, does it snow where you live or not really? Or are you in the Southern Hemisphere, like my Southern Hemisphere gang, and it's about to be hot? I'll see you guys in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.